Welcome along to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, alongside me, as you can see, Steve Wyss and James Eastham. Steve, a very good day to you. You are inching well, let's get the profit and loss on screen, shall we, here? The P&L, the show's massively in front. And Steve, as we've mentioned, over the past 3 or 4 weeks, we were very confident. I've completely jinxed this, haven't I? We're very confident that you would get in profit by the end of the season. You're nearly there.
Well, good day to you both. And, those figures are looking better than they were for me a few weeks ago. I felt like, since the turn of the year, I felt like a team, sort of in a relegation battle, trying to avoid the drop. Every single unit matters. Every single point matters. And, I've had to, as I've mentioned before, I've had to change my strategy, my approach a bit, because I simply haven't been hitting a high enough percentage of sort of winning picks. So I've got to make sure when I do hit these winners, they cash for me well. These plus money plays have done well for me. And I think I made 0.4 profit last week. It's better than a loss, isn't it? So every single week, keep grinding, keep trying to get the bets going and getting towards that level mark, which is my target for the remainder of the season. Fingers crossed I can do it.
Yeah, we've got about a month to go, James, and a very good day to you. I mean, this is not tagging on to Steve's picks here, but we do get some odd results between now and the end of the season. We get some wild score lines. I mean, there are starting to become games where you just leave alone now. Your shortlist is not as long as it might have been at the start of the season.
Yeah, 100%. And you're right, Dan, you do get some crazy scores at this time of season. I remember people back in the day would, look for 3-3 score lines on the final match days of seasons because teams go crazy. Big prices on correct score outcomes, if that's your thing. And motivation's the other thing. It feeds into a lot of our picks today where you've got teams with everything to play for at the top or the bottom of the table. You've got other teams who've got absolutely nothing to play for on the beach, sitting in mid-table, their season's done and dusted. So that also is a factor, I think, in some of the crazy scorelines you get, because you get teams at this stage of the season playing very differently to how they play for the majority of the campaign.
Well, as we know, look, it's been a really good season so far for the European show, massively in profit, as you've seen. If you're fading us, if you're tailing us, let us know your bets for the weekend across the European slate on the YouTube comments. Don't forget, we've got our newsletter, bettingweeklystudios.com. If you just dropped on your channel, if you're new to the channel, that is something that you will get twice a week for free. You can get the address on our YouTube page. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Because We Win. We're going to start not with a league game, but with a cup game. But it's a final, and it's a big final as well. Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. It is Barcelona versus Real Madrid for the Copa del Rey final. Barcelona are plus 123 to win in 90 minutes. Real Madrid are plus 188. The draw is plus 295. The over and under line, the regular line, the half ball line is at 3.5. Under is minus 180, but goals are expected here. James, you've got a one unit play in this. I was amazed to see that this is the first Classico final since 2014 and only third since 1990. I'd have to triple check that, but I'm pretty sure I've got it right. It's the third meeting of the season as well. Third meeting of the season as well. Barcelona have won 5-2 in the Supercopa, 4-0 at the Bernabeu. We've still got another league game to come, of course, and Real Madrid have won only 3 of the last 7 in all competitions this season. So a lot of it is leaning to Barcelona here, and for me, bettors are going to take some persuading to side with Real Madrid. But James,
well, let's see if I can do that persuading, shall we, Dan? Because I am siding with Real Madrid here. I think they're too big. Those prices, I was surprised when I logged on early in the week and looked at this game in detail. Barcelona plus 123 to win it in 90 minutes. Real Madrid plus 188. Is the difference in quality between these two teams really as big as those prices suggest? I don't think it is. I understand it. You've alluded there, Dan, to the fact that we've had 2 head-to-head meetings in this season. Barcelona won them both convincingly. I think that is the main reason they're such a short price to win this game this weekend. They are 4 points ahead of Real Madrid as well, we should say, in the Liga standings at the moment after 33 games. So I would have no objection to Barcelona being slight favourites here. I think that would make a lot of sense. It's really to do with the difference in price. I think it's just too big between two sides who, for me, are actually still fairly evenly matched. I think if you've watched those two head-to-head games, you might argue that that's not true, and I would get that. 5-2 win in the Super Cup for Barcelona in January, 4-0 win away at Real Madrid in the Ligue in October. Fairly convincing performances as well as just the scorelines, but I don't think that those games playing out the way they did mean that this game will play out the way those did in the past. I think there's probably a bit more on this game for Real Madrid. They're out of the Champions League. That's gone now. They're not out of the title race. They can still win La Liga title, but this is a chance to win silverware. And only one of these two teams has got a Champions League semi-final coming up next week, and it's Barcelona. So this isn't even the biggest game for Barcelona in a seven-day time frame. So I just think these factors do matter. I think they mean there's a lot on this game for Real Madrid, probably a little bit more for me on this game for Real Madrid. As we're recording now, there's lots of talk about the team news. I would advise people to maybe look at that closer to kickoff. Will Barcelona rotate with one eye on that Champions League semi-final against Inter? Maybe. We've seen them doing that in areas of the team when they can. So I don't think Real Madrid will do that. If they've got players who are available, I think they'll play them because this is a really important game for them. So, yeah, it's a one-unit play for me. It's on Real Madrid. I just think they're too big to win. I'm not backing them to win it in 90 minutes. I'm not even backing them to win the trophy. They're plus 130 to win the trophy. My play is actually Real Madrid tie. So it's the double chance market. Real Madrid tie. It's available at minus 148. So with that pick, you're going to win as long as Real Madrid avoid defeat in 90 minutes. And as I said, I think there'll be different opinions on this, but I think at the moment, looking at the prices, that is the value play for me.
That's how James sees it. A lot of bettors are going to be going on Barcelona. A lot of bettors still, Steve, I think are going to be going overs because the last 7 meetings have gone over 2.5 goals. Now it's minus 200 for over 2.5, but everyone's going to be looking at overs, both teams to score. Yes, I mean, surely that is the way to play it if you're looking at the overs market, Steve.
I think under, Dan. I actually think this could be a really poor game. I mean, if you look at the two meetings this season, Barcelona have 4-0 and 5-2. Real Madrid are not going to make the same mistake again. If they do, then they deserve what's coming their way. There's no way they will not accept that. Nobody accepts that, what's happened in the two meetings this season. So they're going to have to set up differently, and I think they will. I think they'll make it a bit of a... You mentioned, funny enough, the last time these two teams met in a cup final. I'm pretty sure that was the Mourinho win, wasn't it? In Valencia there. And nobody fancied them that day at all. Every man and his dog was on Barcelona. Right? This could be a little bit similar where no one's giving Real Madrid much of a chance. I actually think to win the trophy at plus 130 isn't the worst price. I think Real Madrid are going to win this cup. And but I do like under 3 Asian goals. And I was doing the live show with Lewis Jones last week. We were actually talking about the Dutch Cup final, and he reminded me of the golden rule of betting on cup finals. Bet the unders. It's almost an automatic bet in a lot of cup finals because matches just naturally go tighter. We can get this Asian 3-goal line of the under. Only 4 of the last 15 Copa del Rey finals have gone over 3.5 goals. I had a look back. I think some of that includes extra time as well. Now, worryingly, the 4 games that did go over did all involve Barcelona. But for me, I think this is a good spot to go au contrarian and go against the grain. This just feels like a good opportunity to me. If we get the exact same outcome as the exact same pattern of play as the last 2 games, then I'll be quite disappointed in Real Madrid, to be honest, because it's obvious the changes they've got to make to counteract this Barca team. We've seen teams have success against Barca this season. They've made those changes. So I'd be disappointed in Real Madrid if they didn't at least try and counteract these big strengths Barca had. So for me, the lean would be under 3 goals and a lean on Real Madrid to win the trophy at plus 130.
There you go, counterintuitive plays from the boys. Steve's just a lean. James is an official play. Let us know who you fancy here. I'm not looking beyond the obvious. I think Barcelona will win in 90, and I think there'll be overs. but Steve and James have had good seasons, obviously.
Over
Who do
3?
you fancy in the...
Over
yeah, I'd
3,
go over
Asian?
3. I'd go over 3 and I'd go over 3.5. Over
Oof.
3.5 at plus 138.
But the Champions
And
League,
I'm
does
playing
that not worry you,
Barcelona
Dan?
as well.
The Champions League in the horizon, that's the big, that's the real big one, isn't it?
Do you know what? Every time in the past, whenever I've looked at these games, you just naturally think, well, it's got to be tight. They're two really good teams. It's got to be this. And all hell breaks loose every single time they play. And there's always these wild, 5-2s, 4-0s that we've seen this season. And I just think that the normal sort of sensibilities of betting can be sort of shoved to one side. That's my sort of take on Barcelona. I mean, it's a game that I don't really get heavily involved in. The Copa del Rey could be something different. I like the cup final angle that Lewis has pointed out. And in terms of value play, James has got it right, and so have you. I mean, I'm very much on the muggy side of this counter. Do you know what I mean? And I just think that, you've got to back Barcelona, haven't you? They're going to win the league. They've already beaten them twice. It's all there in front of me. That's what I'm going to play. But, it would be interesting to see what people think on this one. It's a massive game. Get your comments in the YouTube. Who you betting? You betting Barca? You betting Real Madrid? Are you going to go unders or overs? We want those markets in the YouTube comments for the big game in Spain. It's Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll see who comes out right. And next week, if it's me, I'll be shouting from the rooftops. If it's James and Steve, I won't mention it. Let's get to some Bundesliga betting, shall we? We've got a little mini section that involves Steve here. We've got one unit, same game parlay, and a lean for the 9:30 a.m. games on Saturday in the German top flight. Only 4 games to go in the Bundesliga, Steve. We're going to start with your one unit play here. Holstein Kiel up against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Gladbach are the favourites, plus 112. Kiel, 3 points behind the relegation playoff place, or off the relegation playoff place, so they need to win. Gladbach have got a shout out, maybe to get a European spot, although I think it's only going to go down to 6, isn't it, given who's in the cup final. So that's going to be a bit of a scrap, but it's not the money line you're looking to. We're going overs, but which line and what price and why?
Well, the Bundesliga is back on the menu. I actually got a couple of messages on X this week encouraging me not to look away from the division. Malvo has given me, who was a regular watcher of this show, has given me a couple of bets on the Friday game in the Stuttgart match. So I did have a good look. And you know what? There is actually quite a lot of potential this round, I feel, in the Bundesliga. Holstein Kiel here against Borussia Mönchengladbach. This fixture has good memories for me. I did cash a 2-unit play on this earlier in the season. 4-1 win for Borussia Mönchengladbach. I mean, I remember that match, and it could have been 6-2, something like that. It was crazy end to end. And I think we might get exactly the same again. So I'm immediately drawn to the goal line over 3.5 goals at plus 120. If this was early in the season, maybe I'm looking at 2.75 goal lines, 3 goal lines. But, I'm in a position where I want to swing a bit harder. So 1 unit official pick on over 3.5 goals. Holstein Kiel have the second most over 3.5 goal games in the league. Only Bayern Munich have had more this season. We know they've struggled to defend. They have ground out a couple of 1-1 draws recently away from home against Mainz and Leipzig. But actually, it's their home form which is more worrying. They've almost been worse at home this season. 10 defeats out of 15, 36 goals conceded. Tells its own story. The 3 teams at the bottom are awful, really, aren't they? There's a massive game next week. Bochum against Heidenheim. And that'll probably be an overs pick for me automatically on theory. But, Holstein Kiel's last 2 games are Freiburg and Dortmund. This might be their last realistic chance to win a game. So I think they've got to go for it here. And Borussia Mönchengladbach have got to go for it, to get in the top 6. Draw doesn't really do a lot for either teams. Based on the previous matchup, we could get really end-to-end football again. So it just screams goals. And, we're in that stage of the season where goals tend to flow in a lot of leagues anyway. And especially the Bundesliga, nice weather again. So, this is just a simple one, Dan. 1 unit official play at plus 120 on the over 3.5 goal line.
Steve's also on same game parlay duty. The last time Steve was on SGP duty, what was it? We hit a 6-1 shot, did we? But more than that, I think, wasn't it? Hoffenheim Dortmund, you have declared is your same game parlay game, but you haven't told any of us the same game parlay elements and the picks. So you're going to have to reveal all here. I mean, Dortmund are minus money favourites here. They've only won 2 of 7 when they're minus money away from home. I can't back Dortmund at minus money home or away, to be honest with you, because they've been a bit of a basket case this season. So SGP, what are we revolving the picks around?
I've got about 6 possible SGPs on my shortlist here. This is my workings out. Right, you mentioned I cashed a really big one last time. I'm going even bigger on this occasion.
Come on.
Right, this is really, might be a little bit greedy, but I do actually think it's got a decent shot. I'm going for an 18-1 SGP. And there's 4 elements required here for this to happen.
Okay.
Now, first and foremost, I really like the goals in this game, and very nearly added it to like 1 unit, 2 unit official pick over 3 goals, over 3.25. I think it's a game which is going to be really wide open. I mean, Dortmund of late, if we watch them, it's just been a really entertaining sort of thing. They've not been involved in tight games, and Hoffenheim have been pretty much a basket case all season, a disappointing season for them, although they should survive from this point onwards. 2 players have really impressed me of late, and certainly in the last 2 weeks. Serhou Guirassy for Dortmund. I mean, all season he's gone well, hasn't he? Champions League, everything. It's actually the one signing that's really worked out for them this season. And then Andre Kramaric at Hoffenheim, who's a bit of a streaky player. He goes in and out of form, but he's also been able to get his confidence going in the last couple of weeks. So the first thing I'm going to do is back both of these players to score a goal, score any time.
Okay.
Kramaric anytime and Guirassy anytime goal scorer. And then on top of that, I'm going to be backing both players to have over 1.5 shots on target. So basically, we need the players to score and then an extra shot on target each. And that is actually 18-1, which I think that's quite big. I mean, obviously it's not a banker or anything, but I'm not sure it's asking too much. I mean, this actually would have cashed both of the last 2 matches with these players involved. I mean, recently, Kramaric is he had 5 shots on target last week. He scored 3 goals in his last 2 games. He had a period, I look back at all of his shot stats, mid-season, he went 8 games without a shot on target, which is terrible for a striker. But this is the sort of guy he is. He goes in waves, in streaks, and I think his tail's going to be up again. He's on penalty duty as well. Both of these players are on penalty duty, so that really helps the bet.
Good.
In a game where I think there's going to be a lot of goals, these are the most likely goal scorers. They're going to probably give you 90 minutes on the field. So, I mean, if you back both players to score at any time in the SGP, you get in plus 700. I just think it's worth taking the extra shot on target for both to double those odds and more at 18-1. Serhou Guirassy and Andre Kramaric, both to score at any time and both to have over 1.5 shots on target. This is 18-1, half unit pick on the SGP.
I love that. I'm just wondering if we found a little bit of a glitch in the matrix here, because I've never thought about doubling up or parlaying up both goals and shots. You know, when you look at a same game parlay, James, it's usually like, well, we might have an anytime goal scorer and over match goals or team goals. You know, I'd never think to do goals and shots as a parlay.
And it makes you wonder how many times when a player scores is that shot the only shot
you're
on
halfway
target
there.
has he had in the game. Yeah, right. So, and I think of some of the player picks we've done in these markets in France recently.
Yeah.
Very often the player that's scored has had 2 or 3 shots on target. So Steve's absolutely right. Not just about players being streaky and in good form, but if you're going to score, you're maybe going to have another couple of goals on goal in that game, aren't you? It's very interesting.
Yeah, look, all same game parlays are related contingencies. Years ago, you weren't allowed to have them, but obviously it's a contemporary bet. But you know, a lot of things are factored in, and percentages are sort of clipped off the top with bookmakers. But this is a very interesting way. First time we've seen it, massive price.
Just to add here,
we wish
just
Steve
to add
well. Go on.
that both players, Kramaric has had 12 matches this season where he's gone over 1.5 shots on target. Guirassy's had 14 matches in the same capacity. As I say, the last 2 games, both players have been absolutely rampant in front of goal. And also, 18-1, I said at the last time I did the SGP, I'm going to have a bit of fun with these now. And that's what I'm continuing to do. I think this is a big price. I actually think fair odds for this. It's really hard to work out what fair odds are for an SGP. But I think fair odds for this would be about 8 to 9 to 1. So, if not actually shorter. So maybe there is a bit of a glitch in the matrix, like you said.
Come on, everybody, all aboard here. Kramaric, Guirassy, anytime goal scorer of the pair, and over 1.5 shots on target. That's how we're going to play it for Steve's same game parlay this week. And just to wrap up, quickly give us your other Bundesliga thought. You've got a lean, Steve, in the Freiburg Wolfsburg game. Wolfsburg in shocking form at the moment. Only team that haven't managed to win in the last 6.
Well, it was going to be draw no bet on Freiburg, but actually, I think moneyline at plus 180 is probably the better bet, Dan, because Wolfsburg have just gone, haven't they? You'll be quite pleased about their turn in form, because they were a side massively overachieving with their metrics mid-season, and we often talked about that. And I gave an excuse that they've got individual players who are very capable of scoring low XG chances. Well, the goals have dried up. So, you could say they have definitely regressed to the mean in both areas of the field. And, in expected points, I think they're in the bottom half. Well, that's where they are in the table anyway, but really struggling for form. Did manage to end their losing streak last week against Mainz, but they've nothing to play for at all. They're absolutely landlocked in that position, and the team Freiburg are in 5th. They've got everything to play for, so this is a big motivation game, and that is why I'm really surprised they're plus 180. At this stage of the season, with motivation in play, Freiburg should be the favourite to win the game, I think. So you may as well actually take them on the money line plus 180 as a lean here at a big price.
Yeah, draw no bet. If you're a bit more cautious there, we're siding with Freiburg for our final Bundesliga thought of the week. Let's get to James's hot dog. We go to France. It's Lyon against Rennes, 3:05 on Saturday, Eastern kickoff. Lyon are minus 139, I should say. Rennes plus 325 here. We've got a hot dog play. We've got a shot on target play. For a player, do you know what? I commentated on this player when he was in Italy, and I just thought he was a striker, but he's never, ever been a striker. He is a midfielder, but you think he may well be a little overpriced when it comes to a shot on target play, James.
Yeah, I think he's the value play this weekend in France. It's Tanner Tessman of Lyon, who I'm backing here in the over 0.5 shots on target market. This is my hot dog play, so it's got to be plus 200 or bigger. And he's plus 215 to have over 0.5 shots on target. So it's a 1-unit pick. He's an interesting player, Tessman. He's not been an automatic starter all season for Lyon. In and out of the team in there, usually a 3-man midfield. But I do think he's overpriced here. He's a very clean striker of the ball. He does like to have attempts on goal. He doesn't always get the opportunity because Lyon sometimes play him quite deep in midfield. They've obviously got some good attacking players like Ryan Shirky, Almada, Corentin Toliso's played quite far forward this season as well. So sometimes he's got a hold for tactical reasons. But I think now is a good time to get on Tessman for a couple of reasons. The first is he actually scored last weekend in the 2-1 derby defeat for Lyon at St Entienne. It was actually his first goal of the season, which I was slightly surprised by, but that is partly because of how they've used him tactically. And the second reason, on top of him having scored last weekend, is that Lyon will definitely go for the win here. It's a tough game for them. Rennes are going to be difficult opposition, but Lyon are one of several sides who are fighting to get into the Champions League places. PSG have already won the league, obviously. We've only got 4 points separating the teams down from 2nd to 7th in League One. So I think what that means is at the moment, those teams from 2nd to 7th who are all hoping to get a Champions League spot, they have to go for the win. They're going into these games, they know they can't really afford an off day because the top of the table is too tight. So I think we'll see a really positive Lyon performance. I think they'll go hard to get the 3 points here. And I just think it means players like Tessman, who might be used in a slightly more defensive way if things were different, will be given license to get forward. So I think it's a good time to be on him. Plus 215 to have over 0.5 shots on target, I think is a good price. He doesn't always start games, but don't worry about that, because if you've backed him and he doesn't start, then your bet will be voided and you get your stakes back. So he's my standout player this weekend in the shots on target market. Is Tanner Tessman of Lyon.
Yeah, I went down a real rabbit hole because I thought he had to be a striker because he was at Venezia and I thought he's a striker. So I went right the way through his college career at Clemson College and I thought he's got to be a striker. He's never been a striker ever, but he did score plenty of goals when he was an attacking midfielder at Clemson. Shout out to anyone who went to Clemson. Not college I'm familiar with. To round out our Saturday picks, thoughts, leans, we've got our St Entienne section. Steve, quickly, They are at Strasbourg. Do we back them at plus 440? Asian line. What's your St Entienne thoughts before we move on to Sunday's picks?
I don't really fancy them this week because I think it's a bad matchup. I actually think Strasbourg are very well coached by Liam Rossignol. It was interesting. I watched on Monday night over here in the UK on Sky. Will Still was on the show, and he actually gave a breakdown how he played against St Entienne. And that was the one game they were completely nullified in, beat them 1-0 Lons. And I think Strasbourg might have a similar approach. Rossignol is going to come up with a strategy to try and nullify this Sante system, and they're fighting really hard for positions in the top five. I think it could be a good bet here is Lucas Stassin again, though. We mentioned him a lot on the show.
Yeah,
he's plus 255 to score any time. He's plus 300 to have over 1.5 shots on target. Yeah. That's something he's managed in 4 of the last 6 games, and he's scored 7 goals in his last 8. So that's probably an automatic bet at the minute. But I do think Sante will be a bit more restricted than normal in this particular game, because Strasbourg will be well set up for them.
James, was Stassin on your shortlist at all?
He was my second choice in that over 1.5 shots on target mark. Yeah, everything's going through him at the moment at St Entienne. He's getting in great positions and he's hitting the target, not just with the goals, but he's also working the goalkeeper. So came very close to backing Stassin this weekend.
Sunday action starts for us with Angers against Lille. It's a 9 a.m. game on Sunday morning Eastern. Angers are plus 440, Lille minus 165. Lille went minus money away from home, James. They've only won 1 of 5 this season, but Angers are in poor form. You've got your 2-unit play here.
Yeah, it's my 2-unit play, and it's on Lille on the Asian handicap with a minus 0.75 goal start, which is available at minus 125 because they are a short price just to win it on the money line, are Lille. And you're right, they've not been great away from home in this sort of situation when they've been short priced minus money favours. But I think Angers are the perfect team to sort out a record like that for you, because they've been a really nice place to go for a lot of the top teams this season. And that's why it's my 2-unit play. There's a big difference in quality here between the sides. Angers are down near the bottom of the table, in serious danger of being relegated this season or ended up in the relegation playoff spot. Their form is extremely poor. They've lost 6 out of their last 7. The only game that they won in that run was against Montpellier, who are bottom of the table. Angers failed to score in 5 of their last 7. So their form is dreadful. And against the sides currently in the top 8, this season at home, Angers have played 6 and lost 6. So they've got absolutely no form at all against the top sides when they play at home. Most of those games, if you've seen them or watched them, they've been completely outplayed, actually. I mean, they've not even made a contest of it, really, at home this season when they've played the top teams. So I think it's a great chance here for Lille to get 3 points. They're in pretty good form. They've won 3 of their last 4. They're one of these sides a bit like Lyon, who are fighting for a Champions League spot. So everything to play for them. There'll be strong motivation on both sides here at opposite ends of the table. But all the quality and all the form is with Lille. I would be massively surprised if they don't get the 3 points here, because everything's in their favour. They should have pretty good team news. And they're playing an Angers side who've been poor, as I say, generally this season at home to the top sides, and more recently against pretty much everybody. So strong 2-unit play for me is Lille minus 0.75 on the Asian handicap. And with that pick, as long as Lille win the game, then you are going to make some profit.
2-you play from James in that one, sticking with France for Nantes against Toulouse, 11:15 a.m. on Sunday morning Eastern. Toulouse are favourites here at plus 128. Nantes 4 points clear of the relegation playoff place. Steve, you got your hot dog play here. I mean, we've talked about Toulouse an awful lot. I had to check back again I like Understat as a website. Don't get me wrong here. I like it. But they still rank Toulouse as the 4th best team in France on expected points. And I've been banging on about this about all season. I think there's something like 16 points off what they should be according to their data and their model. But they've been awful recently. Steve?
The hot dog is Nantes moneyline, plus 205. And it's not often you'll hear me say this on the show that I'm priced in to back this one. I have to take it on the odds. And it's probably the best bet that I've got on the card in terms of value per fight, because I brought I was doing a bit of spreadsheet work on this game in terms of working out the odds and stuff. I actually make Nantes a plus 110 favourite in this game. That's how I price it up myself. I'll be interested.
Maybe the Bet Rivers traders are looking at the understat data and the modelling. That's why they have them at that. I mean, that's the price comes from those expected goals and expected points data. It's as simple as that. It's a bit like Bournemouth in the Premier League. They've been sent off favourite every week and they've been not winning. But anyway, Steve.
I mean, I actually price it up the goal line at 2.25 as well instead of 2.5. But listen, Toulouse. I mean, let's just talk about, in terms of motivation, not need the points a lot more. They are 14th in the table, but they're only 4 points clear of the playoff spot. They've been, we know how Nantes are going to play. Antoine Comboire, the old dog, did it again, didn't he? Again, he's actually picked up 2 draws against PSG this season. They sit back quite deep at home, difficult to play against, frustrate teams. And I think Toulouse, this is the last sort of game they want at this stage of the season. They want to have fun, express themselves, get involved in a shootout. Nantes are not going to let them do that. I could see Toulouse overcommitting themselves. There was a lot of frustration from Toulouse last week when they lost at Stade de Reims. James nailed that one with, I think it was a very strong lean. There was a red card. The manager's starting to moan. I think he could be under pressure. They're the sort of club that are quite ambitious. He's not guaranteed to see out the summer. I think they will stick with him because they like the project with the underlying numbers and things. But this won't go down well in the Violet City. So 5 defeats in a row. I mean, I look back since the start of 2025. Toulouse have only won 4 games. They beat Lens 1-0. It was a good start to the year. That was the first match. They beat Lens 1-0 away. But then they beat Laval 2-1, a Ligue 2 side in the Cup. They beat Le Havre away and they beat Angers away. I mean, that isn't a lot to write home about, is it? We just talked about Angers, how poor they've been. So 4 wins out of 17. I mean, I nearly had this as the 2-unit pick, draw no bet, because that's the problem with Nantes. They just draw too many games for my liking across the whole season. So it's a bit of a frustration in that, and they would probably be happy with a point. But in terms of the odds and the price, I can't be having this. Plus 205, there's no way they kick off this big. Surely they can't. So, I think they'll probably kick off about plus 170, plus 180. But in terms of, it is a hot dog at the time of recording, plus 205. I cannot get beyond this one. Am I that confident they're going to win the game? I can't hang my hat on it because they just draw too many. But I tell you now, if you bet this 100 times, Dan, you would definitely get profit. We're getting way bigger odds than we should do. Actually, I make it plus 110. I might be being a little bit too biased towards Nantes there, but I definitely think they should be the clear favourite.
Strong advice to get with Nantes on the money line, or maybe, James, even on some sort of Asian line.
Yeah, my lean on the game is Nantes on the Asian handicap with a plus 0.25 goal start at minus 121. So with that pick, it's only a lean from me, but you would make a profit as long as Nantes avoid defeat. This is the second week in a row where Toulouse have been away from home against a side at home who are in better form than them and are fighting for their lives at the bottom of the table, and Toulouse are the favourites. Makes absolutely no sense. I think you're absolutely right, Dan. These prices are being pulled from data which don't really reflect, number one, how the team is actually playing. And they certainly don't, to me, reflect the motivation of the two sides, because Steve's nailed it about Nantes. Yes, they're outside the relegation positions at the moment, but they're not safe yet. Not with points still to be played for and the gap over the bottom 3 being quite small. So it's very difficult to see why Nantes would lose this game. They go into it after a pretty good performance against Paris Saint-Germain in midweek. It was a rearranged match and they drew that 1-1. They're difficult to beat, as Steve has said. But for me, the motivation is almost the key thing here. You've got a team at home who are going to battle at least to get a point. Yeah, they just need a point really, but they'll go and try and win it if they can. But they take a point against a side who are coming into this game in Toulouse who don't really have anything to play for. So I can't make them favourites at all. And I think there's various ways you can side with Nantes. I would try to find one of them. For me, it's Nantes plus 0.25 on the Asian handicap at minus 121.
Really strong thoughts on this game. What do you like? Let us know in the YouTube comments. Have a look at that understat site. If you're not familiar with it, I do like it. but there are some anomalies on there, as there are with a lot of data. Have a look at the expected points table for Ligue and tell me if you think that Toulouse should be in fourth place. The boys here are suggesting that there's some false data, or at least data that doesn't make sense in terms of what the boys see week to week recently with Toulouse. Hot dog for Steve, plus 205, just a lean for James on the Asian line. Quarter balls start at minus 121. And just to wrap up French action on Sunday, Steve, you've got a lean for us in the Lens Auxerre match, which surprises me a little bit because as far as I can see, these two sides haven't got anything to play for.
Well, I'm going under 2.75 goals. I'm not really sure why it would be a surprise. Lens have only had 9 out of 30 games go over 2.5 this season.
It's just a game I'd steer clear of if there's nothing on it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, last week they actually did go over. I got that one wrong. They went to Brest and they got the win, and there was 10 men involved. But yeah, I mean, I wish I'd known Will Still was going to be on that show on Monday on Sky, because there's no way he wanted to come in on the show on the back of a defeat, is there? So he would have been extra fired up for it. So maybe this week they're a little bit the curse of the Monday Night Football appearance on Sky might have a. I mean, if Auxerre are up for it, and I hope they are, they might not be. They could be on the beach. Then I think they'll just come here with a low block as they often do, make themselves difficult to break down. And we know Lens have struggled to convert their chances this season. So that's why I thought the goal line would be about 2.5 at around evens. We can get under 2.75 goals at, I think it's minus 114 now. Let me just check the latest price here. Minus 108. So, I mean, I did nearly think about having this as an official pick, and I think 4 or 5 weeks ago it would have been. But you are right. There might be an element of end of season syndrome here, so there is a slight risk with that. But based on the numbers, well, it's got to be an under for me.
Under is the thought process there. For Steve, on that lean for Lens Auxerre, 2.75 is the line. A couple of Italian games to look at from a lean point of view. One from Steve, one from James here. So not official picks, but just a couple of thoughts on the Sunday action in Serie A. Steve, 6:30 a.m. early. Como against Genoa here. This is an interesting one because it's Fabregas against Vieira, isn't it? Fabregas sort of took over Vieira's spot at Arsenal, and his side have found form in fairly spectacular fashion. They've won their last 3. We know what Genoa are like. He's still cashing on the unders, but the market's caught up with that a little bit. Steve, how are we playing this one?
Como moneyline, minus 120 I like here. A team we've hardly ever talked about all season, have we? I can't even think of a match where they've got a serious mention, but Cesc Fabregas done a great job here. He's linked with several jobs this summer. I think the most recent link is Leicester City in the Championship. Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking as well, but it can be a route, can't it, for a manager to get into the Premier League ultimately. But he's done really well here. They've won their last 3 games. We mentioned the understat site there. They are 10th in the expected points table on understat this season, actually underachieved slightly from where they should be. So, he's kept them going. And at this stage of the season, I like to identify teams who are sort of on the rise and wanting to finish the season strongly, and those that have just, mailed it in a little bit. I don't want to use the word given up or anything, but just maybe not as bothered, not as sharp. And I think Genoa maybe just starting to fall into that trap. Their results haven't been that bad, bit inconsistent really. But, I mean, they just had a 2-0 loss to Lazio at home. I think they were down to 10 men very early in that fixture in midweek. Como have managed to, they've had a whole week off in preparation. There was the round that was delayed, wasn't there, because of the unfortunate death of the Pope. So I think that the scheduling could help Como out here as well. They just seem more up for it at the moment. And we know what Patrick Vieira sides can be like at this stage of a season. When he's come in, he's done his job. He's done the priority of keeping them up handsomely. But I think to finish the season off, Como and Genoa, both sides on the same number of points right now. But I think Como are the side that are more likely to break into the top 10 of the two of them. So backing them here, money line minus 120, just a lean.
And big game in Italy is Inter against Roma, which is 9 a.m. on Sunday, obviously ahead of Inter in the Champions League here. I mean, Inter are minus 141 to win this one, third biggest that they've been all season at home in Serie A. So there's a lot of respect when Roma come to town. They're 17 unbeaten in Serie A. The team news is going to be interesting because Inter are expecting some players back. Roma might rotate a little bit here. I mean, I know, James, that we've talked about Napoli to win Serie A quite a lot over the course of the season. I backed Atalanta; they're not going to win it. But if you took James' advice through various stages of the season, we mentioned that plus 350, plus 400, they're even money now. Yeah. And with Inter's schedule, I know they got knocked out of the Coppa Italia, but they've still got Barcelona ×2. They've still got some tough games. Napoli, I think, have got the easier running. I think Napoli even money are a decent bet. Anyway, back to this game. You've got a lean for us.
Yeah, I've got a lean on this game, which is both teams to score at minus 115. But, really what that lean is about, Dan, is trying to somehow get against Inter in this game. There's other ways you might want to do it. I did have a look at Roma on the Asian handicap. You can get them at with a plus 0.75 goal start at minus 118, because I think now is the time to be against Inter. And I think one of those points we've flagged up regularly across the season, which is the point you're making. Napoli have had a much easier schedule all season. They weren't in Europe at all. Is now catching up with Inter because they've had a packed schedule. They've gone very deep in the Champions League and they've gone out of the Coppa Italia now. It's been a terrible week for them. They lost in the league last weekend and now they've gone out of the Coppa Italia in midweek against Milan. But I think it's all going to add up. And how seriously can they take this game when they've got the Barcelona Champions League semi-final first leg coming up next week? So team news will be interesting, I think, for two reasons. They've got players potentially coming back here, but I think the manager will also have one eye on maybe saving some of them anyway for that Barcelona game. So I think great time to be against them. And the fact this game falls against a Roma side who've been in such good form, either winning games or not losing games. Yeah, I'd want to be on Roma somehow on this game. So I've gone on both teams to score. Yes, that's just a lean for me. Minus 115, I think, is a good price. I think Roma have got a very good chance of scoring. As I say, you might want to support Roma in some other way. But I think the general vibe at the moment in Serie A with this title race is that it is all starting to catch up a little bit with Inter. They might still get it over the line. They are still very short priced, but very narrow favourites, I should say, in the outright market to win Serie A. But they're tied on points now at the top, are Inter and Napoli. And of the two at the moment, like you say, Napoli are probably going to be the fresher during this season running.
Interesting game, certainly. And inter-team news is going to be key at that Barcelona game next week. Yeah, looming large. Dovbik Shomorodov may well start up front. That was the word from a Roma website I was looking at for Roma. They've been in decent form for that one. Let's get to Steve's 2-unit pick. It's the only La Liga game, 2-unit pick. It's the only La Liga game this weekend. It's Villarreal against Espanyol, 10:15 a.m. on Sunday. Villarreal minus 235, Espanyol plus 550 here. Villarreal, as I mentioned, they are just overs and both teams to score and everything. Another one cashed in midweek, but not exactly how they would have wanted to, Steve, because it was a 3-0 loss at Celta Vigo, but Eric Bailly was sent off in the first half. So an overs cash, not both teams to score, but they are the both teams to score kings, aren't they, Steve? Talk us through your 2-unit play.
Well, I went 2 units last week on Villarreal, and it paid off for me on the overs there. And again, I'm going to go my 2-unit pick in one of their matches. It's not often. I don't think we've had many 2-unit picks with as both teams to score this season across both shows. But this has got to be the bet here because both teams to score is minus 114. Over 2.5 goals is minus 141. Now, it's usually the other way round that you would get both teams to score as the much shorter price. It insinuates with the betting markets that there's an expectation Villarreal may well win the match to 0. Villarreal win to 0 is plus 114. I mean, who would back that? They've only won 3 matches to 0 all season against Alaves, Real Vallecano, and Mallorca. And the Mallorca game was 4-0 half time, so the second half was a complete non-event. They don't win to 0 very often. Espanyol have scored in 14 straight games in La Liga. They've completely... The big problem they had in the first half of the season is they lacked a goal threat. That has just changed completely in the new year. They've scored in the last 14 La Liga matches, 5 clean sheets. They defended quite stoutly, actually, but it'd be a real surprise if they managed to keep a clean sheet here. Villarreal have only failed to net in 1 home game and that was against Athletic Bilbao, who are pretty solid defensively. I think it's a good matchup for goals because we've got, this is an Espanyol team that averaged just 38% possession, the lowest of any team in the league. But they're lethal on the break. I've seen them quite a bit, and they will commit plays forward at pace, and they'll get in behind this Villarreal side. It wouldn't surprise me if Espanyol got a win or draw here, at all. I think they're very capable of causing problems. And, at very least, I think it can be a both teams to score game. Villarreal were down 10 men for most of the match in midweek. Celta Vigo, a bit battered and bruised that way, maybe. And this just stood out to me in terms of the outcome, in terms of the price. Minus 114 compared, I think there'll be overs as well, but the BTTS, let's get the 1-1 draw on our side. And this just makes a ton of sense for me for the 2-unit play again.
2-unit play in La Liga, Villarreal Espanyol on Sunday 10:15. Monday night leans in Italy from the boys here. I didn't have to ask them this week, so you're catching it. You've left it late in the season, but at least you know what's required by now, which is good. We've got Bologna, who are away at Udinese, and Lazio against Parma to have a look at. James, you're going to tackle Bologna. Udinese here, and Bologna have done brilliantly. We talked about them all season. They had a shocking start. They lost their manager. They lost players, but second half of the season they've been great. What's the lean?
Yeah, they have been great, and the lean is on Bologna on the money line to win this game at Udinese on Monday night. It's minus 115, minus money away from home. Some people might not like that. I think it's a great price on a Bologna side who are flying. They do have a Coppa Italia semi-final second leg tonight as we're recording this on Thursday, but I'm not sure that will have much of a bearing on this game for a couple of reasons. The first is this is a Monday night league game we're looking at, so it's a fairly decent amount of time to rest and recover. And also they go into that Coppa Italia second leg 3-0 up from the first leg, so they're not under the same sort of pressure you might be in a second leg. So I think they'll be fairly fresh here, and they've got everything to play for because, like you say, Dan, they have been doing brilliantly. They're fourth in Serie A, but it's still very close, is the race for a top four spot. They've got Juventus and Lazio only a point behind them. They'll know, by the time this game kicks off, how the league table's looking. But it will still be close, whatever's happened over the weekend. So definitely going to go for the win, and they're playing really well, and I think they should get it because Udinese, in all sorts of trouble in mid-table, form-wise, 5 straight defeats, nothing really to play for. And their form against the top half sides this season has been really poor, especially at home against sides currently in the top half of the table. They've played 7 at home this season of Udinese, and they've lost 5 of them. So really the only reason they're in mid-table is they've done pretty well against bottom half sides, but they have struggled in this sort of match. So it's just a lean for me. But it could quite easily have been my 1-unit play because I'm fairly confident here that Bologna should get the job done at minus 115.
Yeah, it looks a value play, doesn't it? Considering those stats that James has suggested. And Steve, 2:45, the later game on Monday, 2:45 p.m. Eastern, is Lazio against Parma. It surprised me the price with this one. It really did. Look, it's been a bit of a standing dish for us. You identified it off the bat, and it's been cashing more often than not. You're massively in front if you've played this bet. You're going to go in again, and it's a slightly bigger line as well, which really surprises me, Steve.
Just keep riding this horse. Parma matches take the under goals. This time we can get under 2.75 goals at minus 114, which is, it is surprising, isn't it? But I do believe the reason for that is because Lazio, overall, I just think are an overrated team. I honestly, I've not seen them play genuinely well for a long time at all, whenever I've seen them anyway. They beat Genoa midweek, given a helping hand by a red card, and also a Genoa team not really at the races. The pressure's on, isn't it, in the race for the top 4 European positions? Fair play to them, they got the result there, and I think that's all they need. Lazio just want to win the game in any way they can, and they themselves have had 4 straight unders. They don't, at this point in time, there's no one really in the Lazio team that screams, I'm going to get you a goal. I wouldn't be that fearful of their offence. This could be 1-0 Lazio or something. Parma are just going to park the bus, make it really difficult. And, the draw wouldn't shock me at all if this is a draw, but certainly an unders game. And, under 2.75 goals, this is a really good pattern of play since the new manager's come in, Christian Kivu. We know how he's going to operate. It's not rocket science. I don't see how this one opens up.
Yeah, when you're relying on Tati Castellanos as your top goal scorer, I think there's a question mark. Much that I liked him in his New York City days, but there you go. We like unders. It's been a standing dish on the show. Hopefully you've been on that train with us over the course of the last few months. That's under 2.75 goals in that Lazio-Parma clash. Steve, James, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We'll keep everyone updated on our X feeds, of course. That's a wrap for Betting Weekly, Extra Time European show. Back next week, picks, plays, hot dogs. Live show every single midweek day from 11 a.m. Eastern. Follow us at Because We Win on X and on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you just found us, let us know who you're betting over the course of this weekend in the YouTube comments. From all of us for now, though, it is goodbye.